Cody not coming?
No, he's on wherever he is. He's on duty for 10 days.
Okay. I call this meeting of the Krum Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called in accordance with the Texas Opens Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, the board will adjourn into executive session pursuant with Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is 6 p.m.
No, we need you in there for at least that long.
Oh, he still got his? Oh, it was in there? So I guess I did carry it in there.
Sorry I had to be ugly to you.
No. Sneaky. This board's now back in open session. If everyone would please stand, Dr. Cochran will lead us in invocation.
Y'all please stand and pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for allowing us to come help make decisions that best support the students in the interest of this school district. Please lead, guide, and direct all our discussions that best match the goals that you have planned for these students, these kids in this community. As always, please continue to bless and protect those men and women that serve and protect us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, Ms. Stupka, I heard you had some special guests for us.
This is our Hansel National Elementary Honor Society.
Oh, I like the shirts.
But they look nice on them.
They do.
So our EHS is sponsored by Ashley Buchanan, Sarah Yanez, and Sabrina Hendrickson. So they are amazing kids. They do jobs all across the campus, and they're great leaders across the campus. So they're going to tell you their name, their grade level, and their favorite thing about Hansel.
My name is Blake Dean, and my favorite thing about Hansel are the teachers there. I'm in 5th grade. My name is Connor Higgins, and I'm in 5th grade, and what I like about Hansel, it is fun, and I love my teachers. My name is Brianna Sanders, and my favorite thing is Honor Society. 4th grade. My name is Victoria Lewis, I'm 12th grade, and my favorite thing about Hansel is people are kind. My name is Mel Peters, I'm in 5th grade. My favorite thing about Hansel is just to go there so I can become friends with him. My name is Nora McDonald, I'm in 4th grade. My favorite thing about Hansel is helping the teachers. My name is Sophie Houston, and I'm in the 4th grade, and I know that everybody's always happy to have him. My name is Bronwyn Peterson, I'm in 4th grade, and what I like about Hansel is EHS. My name is Hannah Hanander, I'm in 5th grade. My favorite thing about Hansel is the teachers. My name is Grace, I'm in 5th grade, and my favorite thing about Hansel is that the teachers are very kind. My name is Lila, my favorite thing is EHS, and I'm in 5th grade. My name is Blake Lauren, I'm in 5th grade, and my favorite thing is EHS.
Thank y'all for being here. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Good job, guys. Thank y'all for coming. All right, our special recognition portion. We're going to start out with the Dyer Teacher of the Month.
Yeah. All right, it is my honor to introduce you guys to Ms. Heather Leggett. I'm a whole page here, I just couldn't stop. You put that, okay. Okay, so one of the first words I think of when I think of Ms. Leggett is reliable. She is always someone I can count on for anything. Starting a new initiative, filling out paperwork, leading a discussion or meeting, seriously, anything. Ms. Leggett is loyal, determined, hardworking, and has worked hard to be a positive light at our school. She builds relationships with students, families, and staff members. She is organized and very often ahead of me when it comes to planning school events. She is good at giving me gentle reminders to get going with information about the next upcoming thing. She's like a calendar alarm clock. It's the best. Here are some words from her teammates. I feel so fortunate to teach alongside Ms. Lively in third grade. She is one of the hardest working people I know, and she does it all with such grace and positivity. No matter how many tasks or responsibilities come her way, she takes them on wholeheartedly and always completes them with a smile. Her positive energy shines through in everything she does and truly lifts up the people around her. Heather is the biggest cheerleader. For the last year and a half, she has brought me under her wing and taught me so much. She loves hard and cares deeply. Her passion comes out when she talks about diagrams, or when a student can get that next evidence in their writing. True. She keeps expectations high for every student while respecting differences. Ms. Leggett doesn't just support her students and teams, but also the whole school. She organizes school events and runs many UIL teams. Ms. Leggett is so deserving of this honor. I am grateful to have her leadership, loyalty, positivity, and talent at our school.
Good job, Ms. Levick.
All right, Middle School Paraprofessional of the Month.
All right, my paraprofessional of the month is Cassie Copeland. Okay, this one's for you, and always cute and decked out and all of it. I'll be doing that again in a minute because it has relevance. It's my absolute pleasure to recognize someone who is truly at the heart of Krum Middle School. Our support staff of the month is Cassidy Copeland. Cassidy wears more hats than most people could even imagine. She's our campus librarian and our Chromebook keeper and solution finder for those things too. She's also our tutor. And somehow she does it all with a smile that will brighten any room. If somebody needs to be organizing, needs troubleshooting, decorating, or celebrating, Cassidy is already 3 steps ahead, color-coded binder in hand, and the best school spirit I've ever seen. She is the definition of a servant's heart. She loves the adults and students she works with, and her whatever it takes attitude is unmatched. Whether it's helping a student find the perfect book, rescuing a panicked teacher with a Chromebook emergency, or rallying their cheerleaders before they game, Cassidy gives 100% every single time. Her dedication and commitment to Krum Middle School are second to none. She keeps us organized, keeps our students feeling supported, and somehow finds a way to encourage everyone around her in the meantime. Krum Middle School simply wouldn't be the same without Cassidy's positivity, creativity, and heart, making our campus brighter every day. And I'm so proud to share her with you tonight. And it's all about school spirit, all the time.
What's that?
Her school spirit outfits,
Oh.
daily.
Good luck at football practice.
All right, now you got a Student of the Month for us, or two?
One of them is Hadley Mayo. She's not there. Hadley is at a event with her family. They normally have church on Wednesday nights, but tonight she's off. They are off from church and doing something together. So I'll give her her certificate at school. My student who is here is Drake Williams. Drake, I know if I go. Come up here, Drake.
I've never seen that shirt.
We did. He just got a little bit of practice, and here he is. Talk about a star at Krum Middle School. I'm going to stick to this because I share one of our outstanding students of the month for Krum Middle School, Drake Williams. Drake is a young man who represents the definition of excellence in all that he does. This is not his first time being recognized, and that alone speaks volumes. Each year, he finds new ways to stand out, not only through his achievements, but through his character, his leadership, and his consistency. This year, I'm even more proud of the leader that he is becoming. He is an active member of our football team, one of our selected Krum Middle School representatives for Dr. Cochran's student leadership group. There you go. And he is currently enrolled in several advanced and high school credit classes, all while maintaining straight A's. His commitment to balancing academics, athletics, and leadership is impressive. But what truly makes him remarkable is the way he carries himself every day. On campus, he is known for his positivity and his respect for others, qualities that make him not only a leader among his peers, but also a role model for what we want all KMS students to aspire to be. Whether he's on the field, in the classroom, or representing Krum Middle School at district events, he brings energy, maturity, and kindness in everything he does. We could talk about grades and awards all night, but the part that makes me the proudest is who he is becoming. A confident, thoughtful leader whose impact reaches far beyond any recognition we could do here tonight. I am incredibly proud of you and can't wait to see what you accomplish this year.
All right, I think, Mr. Gaines, you got some high schoolers for us?
Yes, sir.
It's hard for me to not,
So everybody,
it's hard for me to not call you Coach Gaines.
you can call me coach. I cannot write novels now like Miss Boone did, so I'll do the best I can. Our first student of the month is sophomore Caitlin Webb. Come on up, Caitlin. Her teachers describe Caitlin as shy and soft-spoken, but soft-hearted as well. And Caitlin always puts a smile on everyone's face, so she came highly recommended from her teachers. Congratulations. And our last one, some of you will recognize Mr. Donald Wynn. Donald is a senior at Krum High School. He's a member of our state semifinal basketball team last year. I don't know what else Donald does. Donald just is always in the hallway and puts a smile on everyone's face. Two teachers who are brand new that don't even teach Donald even emailed in saying how well they love Donald. I know how much you paid him, but that's beside the point. So senior Donald Wynn.
Congratulations to all our award winners, and we appreciate our pledge leaders. We don't have anybody signed up speaking open forum tonight, so if y'all just came for the awards, y'all are welcome to leave now. But you're more than welcome to stay for the business portion too, if you'd like. Hey, kids, get your attention.
Later, buddy.
And they're gone. We really don't have much. We really don't have much. Yeah. Know how to empty a room, huh? All right, Miss Ward, are you ready to lead us off on our special reports?
Okay, just to give you a few updates, first of all, our audit is basically 98% complete. I know Heather, she's working on just a little bit of, things like dealing with federal programs and sort, but I've seen reports and, so we should be able to meet with her October 16th to go over all the audit, and then, we are gonna report, or she will report out to you guys November 12th at school board meetings, okay? Team snapshot date is October 31st, and so basically, I know you don't get to see Bobby, but Bobby Lackey, she's our teams coordinator, so she's working hard on that. Basically, we're making sure that all kids' information is correct and everything's labeled correctly, validated. Teachers are coded correctly, because it all goes back to funding, and so she is working hard on that, as well as all the principals and all the other people that have to validate that information. The fourth thing that I wanted to update you on is our amendment. This is one thing I've been talking to you guys about because of the new legislative session that came out and all the different, we're finally getting all the information from TEA and how that's gonna look for us. And so, basically, I've been able to put that together. That'll be, in your consent agenda. But just to give you a little bit of update is that we're gonna be able to increase, our general budget $2.3 million. But I also increase, expenses 2.3, just because that's gonna mainly go into salaries like we've talked about before. What generates that $2.3 million are different allotments. So just to give you a little bit of rundown on that is our TRA, our teacher retention allotment, and our SRA, which is our support retention allotment. We're gonna get about $1 million on that. Our basic allotment, which that was where the state increased us from what we've had in the past to now $55. That's gonna increase about $500,000 for us. Our SPED allotment, our special ed allotment is gonna be about $500,000. Part of that is the evaluations that go into that, where we get $1,000 for each evaluation. So we're estimating right now in the template's about $500,000, not just on the evaluations, but just the SPED allotment alone. Part of that is the NIFA, so we've talked about that a little bit. I'm estimating low right now, about $310,000. It probably will be more, about $375, but I'm just estimating low on that. And of course, all sorts of other things that are in there, but that basically makes up the $2.3 million. Just to, once expenses, as we roll on another October payroll, as well as reconciling the month of October, I'll be able to let us know really what it's gonna look like as the year goes on. So remember we adopted a $1.6 million deficit. So right now that's gonna show that we're not in a deficit, but again, I have to see how those payrolls roll out and how we look at the end of the month in October. And that's gonna start really showing me what it's gonna look like at the end of the year. So just to go, do you have any questions about that before?
So based on what you're saying, we'll make up our deficit budget that we approved originally.
Looking like that, but which would be
Hopefully.
What you're saying on record is that
optimistic, okay?
Okay.
We're looking optimistic there.
At least you're not telling us we're gonna be an extra $2 million.
Right. And I was talking to someone from Denton today, and so we are looking good compared to other districts, and so that's a good thing. Because there's other districts that are struggling, they're doing everything they can, they're having to cut staff, and it's not a good thing, so that is a good thing for us.
I think Louisville closed 5 elementaries.
Yeah. So, all right.
I do want to commend you, though. I mean, this has been a moving target. Since we started planning the budget in June, we've had to adopt and maneuver under different laws and legislations. So the fact that you've kept up with that, but also kept us informed of these changes and ending in this amendment tonight is kind of the closure of, hey, this is now putting the pieces back together. But it's been a different story on Tuesday than it is Thursday, but she's participated in all of them to bring us the most up-to-date information each week. So thanks for the work put into that. This is a tough anomaly year, but should smooth out until legislation meets again.
I know I've promised payroll and all these other people, we have 1 year that we can rest, okay? And they're like, yeah, right. So we'll see. All right, so, general fund revenue, just to go over, some of the topics on that. Local revenue, that's, $521,000 is what we've collected as of September. Our state revenue, I did want you to look at that. It is different from what it has been the last couple of years, and so I just wanted to highlight some of those things. Right now, we've collected already $8 million in that, which is quite a bit of money for us. State revenue, one of the things that we've collected is we were able to get $1 million of settle-up money. Now, even though we are booking that back to 24, 25, we did get $1 million in settlement, settle-up, I can't talk. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is our prior year property value study, which was exciting because, we were able to get over $500,000 this month from that, and that's back from 2023. So I thought we would get about 200, 300, but we actually got about $500,000. So that was a good thing because that's not budgeted money. And then our September payment from the state was $3.6 million. So we are, because of our enrollment, things like that, it is already set at a higher payment than what we have had in the past.
So do you think that'll slow down, Misty, or you think we'll exceed the budget, or do you think it'll be coming in close to what's budgeted for that?
I think it'll be close, but that 3.6 is now because of what we're getting in those allotments. So that's already increased, and that's why the budget amendments have come into play.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, September is always the highest payment, and then as you go October,
It gets smaller and
it gets
smaller.
smaller. And then we don't get a payment,
Okay, that
in the
makes
months of December, January, February, so,
Similar to property taxes.
Mhm.
Yeah, all right.
yeah. And then,
And that-
Sorry, I had a
no,
question.
go ahead.
That $1 million in additional settle-up, what are you contributing the majority of that to?
That is just basically the state was paying us less than what they should have been, and it was based on enrollment.
So the ADA numbers, we have to look at it.
And then the last thing on federal revenue, finally, we collected a SHARS payment. We didn't collect anything from last year. We collected $121,000, and actually that is from last year. So we will get this year's payment as well. So again, that's good news because a lot of districts aren't even getting that, and they budgeted for it, and so we at least got the $120,000.
And what is SHARS?
SHARS, Terry, you wanna help me? SHARS is, first of all, I do reports on that. It's a special ed program where we recoup costs based on Medicare. I don't know if you wanna add anything.
Federal fund reimbursement for special programs.
Occupational therapy, if a student receives occupational therapy, speech therapy, any kind of personal care services like diapering or anything like that, nursing care, we can submit, if the student has Medicare, we can submit that to Medicare, and Medicare will reimburse us for those services.
All right, so the second page is the expenditures. You can see that salaries and benefits are quite, more than they were the last couple of years, but that is due to, the mandated, salary increase that we had. So the first payroll of September, that's the majority of the staff, that goes into that payroll, so that is why that shows such an increase. The other two, purchases, services, and supplies and equipment, I would be looking at 25% at this point and lower. So we've done that, purchases, services, supplies were a little bit up, but again, it's the first of the year, and that's where we're gonna spend, most of our supply money, we're gonna spend it in the first of the year, not, at mid or end of the year. And then, the other reports, the only thing I really want to point out is debt service. We've already paid, our payments, that was in August, so I won't really update anything there. Local revenue, we are up from what we have in the last 2 years. That has to do with investment money that we, received, or investment interest earnings, I should say, from our bond 2025 series that came in. So that's why that's such a jump compared to what we've, seen in the past. So it was at $1.1 million, this year compared to $120,000 last year. So that's why that's showing such an increase. Did you have any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Quarterly investment?
Yes. Really on quarterly investment, I did want to show that Series 2025 now is showing underneath the bond accounts. We did receive our $90 million. That was at the end of August. We did actually earn some interest on that, $428,000. million on that new bond series. And then at the just bottom of the page where you can see the market value, we started at $98 million. We earned interest of 1.3 million. We transferred in 96. That has to do with that bond series of 2025. We transferred out bond payment, or not, well, there were payments, but there was also, just construction costs of $28 million. So we ended with a market value of 168 million.
Okay, thank you. All right, superintendent's reports.
Okay, a couple things kind of to go over. You don't have to flip back, but on your campus reports when they come through, student enrollment, we're at 2575. Our target number was 2600, so we are off a little bit of that, but like she said, she's chasing the budget on a regular basis and keeping us kind of up to par with spending and everywhere we need to be to meet the numbers accordingly. But even when you're off a little bit on those projection numbers, it rolls back to we get paid on ADA. And to look at where we are now, compared to what different averages for state schools are and different things, but to have campus attendance rates at 96.6%, 97.3%, 96.9%, 97.5% at the middle school. That's huge. Good job. That was 95% last year and has continued to rise. 96.1% at the high school. Each percentage point I estimate to be about between $200,000 and $250,000 of revenue that the district can get. You can put a lot of resources, truancy officers and accountability programs and those type of things to really hedge those points into school programs. But the number one thing that drives student attendance is what those Hansel kids were talking about, the relationships with the teachers and these kids wanting to come to school. So those percentage numbers speak huge of what you guys are doing on your campuses and what the teachers are in relation to the kids. I mean, you're looking at historically schools will close between 94 and 95%. So if we hedge that 96 to 97% student attendance, it doesn't just mean dollars. It's more time they spend in front of the teachers learning. But it's really a reflection of them wanting to be there. So thank y'all for what y'all doing. That's a huge, out of a lot of things we're doing, those numbers tell more than just a percentage of where they're on a day-to-day basis. Also in the student, in their campus reports, you see the upcoming events. We did start by putting together a document on a monthly basis for the board members to sign up so you can go to those events on many campuses. So we'll keep that process updated throughout the month and give y'all feedback on when and what those events are so you can sign up for them. From as far as construction projects, Boone, they did a lot in the week that you were out. We actually have drywall going up at the middle school. There she is. We actually have drywall going up in the classrooms right now over in parts of the new middle school. We went and toured that yesterday. Tonight, if you wake up at 2 o'clock and it's raining, your job is to get up here to the CTE Center with umbrellas because we're trying to pour concrete tonight at 2 a.m. And this is probably the 4th time we've attempted to pour. So if this goes right, that is a huge curve for the CTE Center.
The other 3 times were the 3 times it's rained in the last 2 months?
Yes, and not a little bit of rain.
No.
Not a little bit of rain. So right now at 2 o'clock, I'll meet y'all up here if it starts raining. The projects are progressing. Like I said, the CT Center is obviously a little bit behind. I did have a parent reach out to me. It was neat because they were talking to the shop welding instructor and said, they came to, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about our kids? And she said it was really reassuring because he had a plan. Obviously some things aren't ideal, but he was able to reassure the parents that, this is what I'm doing for a plan B. And it wasn't a teacher in panic mode. Part of that goes he has more experience, but it was really reassuring to see him, A, communicating to the parents, but B, he's working on a plan A, B, and a C. So not ideal, but we're making the best of what we got. Hopefully we'll be in there as soon as possible. We are working in the design of the high school and adding that front. The plan right now is to start presenting more up-to-date images to the board and then approving final plans in June. And when they call that a page turn, when the architect finishes the plans, turns it over to the construction company, and we start bidding it out so we can begin the construction process. So there's constantly things moving. We are already doing discussions of some summer projects at the middle school we're leaving to try to stay ahead of some of those curves. Not major rebuild designs, but we're talking about, okay, is it possible to add bathrooms in these X places as it potentially becomes an early childhood center? What does that look like if we start doing some of it now? Just miscellaneous contracted things to help go ahead of that curve. So those discussions are starting. But what really happens in the March, April, May time period when we start getting a definitive plan on the high school is when we can engineer a plan on what we do with kids and how that transition looks like over the 18 months that that building's under construction. We could what if it to death now between then, but until we have a definitive plan in those phases, all we're doing is just chasing a rabbit. So we are having those discussions behind the scene, but it's not a formal public presentation over here's what we're doing with the kids. That won't happen until we have definitive phases put in for what the construction is going to look like. I did want to have a brief discussion. The SHAC committee is a committee that is set legislatively to meet quarterly in a school district, the School Health Advisory Council Committee. My request to the board is, my plan, unless you guys say otherwise, this really isn't a motion unless you said, hey, make it an agenda item to not make a change. But there's been so many changes in the recent legislation on parent involvement, on mental health and wellness, and what they're checking yes or no to be engaged with the school district. The SHAC committee had portions of that was supposed to help oversee parental control that is now kind of given under a different umbrella with legislation. There's been pieces in the SHAC committee that goes directly to health courses, and we don't offer health as a requirement in the high school. So my request to the board, or my information to you, is my plan is to put together a district innovation plan for the SHAC committee that I can bring to the board for final approval. I just want to tweak it to meet our needs better. Because right now, if we're following this mold, we're checking a lot of boxes that doesn't necessarily meet the services we need to provide for a district because we don't offer the courses and we're handling it in different ways with other legislative requirements. So I want to make this more towards Krum. Being a district of innovation, we are allowed to do that. That process is I would rewrite it with input, and then the board would get to, well, it would be posted for public review. The board would get to get final review of any change to a district of innovation plan for a piece like that. So unless there's no objections, this is FYI, my plan is to tweak this to be more of a Krum way of meeting our needs with the SHAC committee. Does that need any discussion or anything? Okay. The next piece, we had a group come together last year and we started diving into addressing different curriculum, and we have a plan to phase in the reading curriculum, and then next year we're phasing in the math curriculum, and we're working and reviewing that now. We came out going, okay, here's the tweaks. Anytime you add a new curriculum, these are the strengths and the concerns that come across. And as our teachers began this, we knew there was going to be some stress with change. Anytime change happens, there's concerns, but there's also professional concerns that come around that said, okay, how do I do this? And we've experienced those as we've implemented a new curriculum for reading through the elementary schools. So a couple months ago, as we started dealing with this, I charged the administration, and Ms. Mosley did a good job at leading this, is really formalizing what our curriculum feedback process is for teacher concern. So I asked Lauren if she'd come just do a brief presentation over what that feedback process looks like for the reading, so we can talk about how we're potentially going to mirror this in the future for math or any other piece that we're going into. It's not a deep dive into the reading curriculum per se, but just how we have heard our teachers, how we're supporting them, and what and who all is involved in that process. She's done a tremendous job supporting the teachers, but it's not a party of one. She's put in processes that the principals are supporting, the other instructional coaches are, we are doing this math, but she's stepped over to help out now as well. So anytime you highlight one person, you have a danger of offending others. But this has been a complete team effort, but the process she put that she's going to visit tonight includes all these people. So this is a 10,000-foot view, but I did want to highlight where we've been and how we're building the momentum in growing our reading program. So next 5 minutes, I told her if she included an interpretive dance, she could have Friday off.
Oh, yeah, do it. Yeah, okay, let's hear it.
I already did an interpretive dance last Friday. If you were at the game, I did mine.
Yeah, where is that jacket? Sparkly jacket? Should be every board.
I could totally be behind the coach. Okay, so the curriculum feedback process was just, like Dr. Harper said, to make sure that teacher concerns are heard, documented, and goes back to principals and administration to help 20 days where we have our unit internalization meetings. Teachers, instructional coaches, and principals are all typically part of this meeting. Ms. Shipley has sat in on many of them as well. Teachers are charged to share their concerns, review summaries, confirm and clarify concerns and challenges, and highlight some things that are going well. I lead these meetings, capture their concerns, send summaries. Principals are working in the back with me, making sure that we can support teachers, and then they will also step in and support teachers as needed too. So the process, like I said, we meet about every 14 to 20 days at the start of the next unit. So they're called unit internalization meetings, and they're designed through TEA for teachers to go through the unit to make sure that we are knowing where the students are expected to go at the end and kind of plan that process. So at the start of the meeting, I ask teachers to share their concerns, what's going well, what are our struggles. I update them on the previous items that we talked about, seeing if there was any changes made between our previous meeting and this current one, and then collect new concerns. During the meeting, I also document these concerns just on a notes page, and then we continue with going through that unit that we're going to be teaching on. After the meeting, I send a summary email to all of the involved parties, so all of the teachers on that team, the campus, principal, and also our upper administration as well. Just kind of a detailed summary of all of the things that we talked about that were struggles, how we plan to either solve these struggles or move forward with them to kind of ease that a little bit. Send that out to all of those parties involved, and then teachers respond back to them if there's something that we missed or if there's another question that they have to clarify on. We then update this tracking system that just has lots of different drop-down boxes based on the campus, the grade level, if these are struggles or pain points that they're dealing with, or positive things as well. And then principals will go in, and when they have their administration meetings, they talk about some of the different pieces and how we can support teachers if things are not able to be solved within the meeting. And then if there are things that we need to kind of refer back to between meetings, we'll kind of go back through that too. So with what we have now on our feedback on that loop right now, about 56% of those challenges we have been able to solve immediately or with quickly after. These are things like their curriculum asks for sound buttons or color-coded crayons, so principals were able to purchase those things. Those natural closures are things like teachers were a little bit frustrated with spelling not starting right away. Well, now they have, so those are kind of naturally closing. And same with like scope and sequence and when we're starting different things. And then some of those ongoing struggles are things like lesson planning is taking some extra time, and that is to be expected. When we start a new curriculum and we're learning some things, each meeting though, it's been nice to hear teachers say, it's getting easier, we're getting the system, we're getting the structure, it's getting easier as we move on. So that is still an ongoing thing because we are all still learning the process. So by how they've been resolved, admin resolved versus coach or teacher, like I said, principals buying materials, buying headphones, buying things to help support test prep strategies in the upper grades. Teacher resolutions, things like they were wishing for more writing practice, so they've been able to add things like that in their win time and just do like fun, creative writing, so they're able to kind of resolve those concerns. Things that I've been able to resolve are like providing materials if they need letter cards to do word buildings and things like that. I'm able to create those and provide those to them. And adjusting assessments if we have questions. Those are things that we can kind of work on together. Some of those natural resolutions were things like teachers were saying, well, if I skipped one thing, I didn't realize I'd come back to it later. So we talked about making sure we're reading through that whole unit prior to teaching the unit so that we know what is coming and what to expect for that. So these are some of more of like, we honed in on some of the big concerns and solutions on that we were working on. So you can read some of these. I'm not going to go through and read every single one of them. But the big one was pacing and time management. Some different solutions we talked about. They feel like they're long. We have felt like as we go through them, it's getting easier. Reteaching opportunities is something that this Tier 1 curriculum, so grade level content, isn't something that we have a whole lot of time within instructional time to do reteach and intervention. Well, for our win time, which is a special 45 minutes time a day, principals were able to push in extra para support so teachers could create small groups and really hone in on pulling some of those kids back that needed extra intervention to give them those things that they needed while still teaching the content on grade level to the whole class during that instructional time. Student engagement was a concern at the beginning with some things like like picture cards. They didn't love those. Teachers struggling to find the fun. As they've gotten more used to it, we have found that they've been able to do end-of-unit celebrations with hospital rooms and decorating urns and just all kinds of fun things that they've been able to enjoy and do with all of the different units. So that's been fun to see them kind of add some of those things in. Assessment and alignment, we had some concerns. Decorating urns. It's fine. You're good. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Keep going. Boom.
Some assessment concerns when we were looking at our beginning of year testing, because that was new to us, we weren't quite sure how that would look, so we wanted to make sure that we followed it with fidelity. And then once we did it, we were able to kind of come back as a committee and say, okay, what felt like duplicates of assessments and things like that, so we were able to really sit down and pull back some different things so we weren't feeling like we're over testing for the sake of testing while still getting the accurate data that we want to make plans for students. Curriculum flexibility, like we said, this curriculum is very set on what the expectations are, so teachers felt like if they missed something, it snowballed, but we talked about making sure that we're beginning with the end in mind and knowing what we want to make sure that we don't miss. And then support for diverse learners, like we talked about, difficulty meeting some of the students who were below level, emergent bilingual or SPED students, and so we utilized a lot of that win time and pushing support to support those kids. So some positive things, while we struggled at the beginning with some content, not having the buy-in, students are really getting into the different pieces that we're learning. Like when we're learning about mythology, students are playing on the playground, acting like those people and tying it in with superheroes. All the different cultural topics have been really fun. Teachers have noted that the content encourages students to share learning at home. We were concerned that kids aren't going to care about polio, and their parents are like emailing like, we learned all this stuff, I didn't know this, and we're researching it at home. So it's been cool to kind of see them bring it home and bring in that parent involvement. Foundational skills, it's been really cool in the lower grade levels that the foundational skills really teaching them letters and sounds, and it's really building that foundation, that solid base of literacy for them. Supportive structures, teachers feel like the recap of these lessons is helpful. The lessons flow consistently because they follow a certain structure. Instructional practices that challenge students, there is a lot of higher level questioning that prepares us for written responses. This curriculum asks for a lot of written responses, which is a huge thing, and they're really rising to the occasion with that. And then we're also getting a lot of support by admin teams. Parents are supporting, coming into the classroom, participating in different things, so that's been really nice to see. That's it. That's all. It's going well. I feel like the more we've gone through these meetings, it's really fun to watch teachers make it their own and really start to get the buy-in for it and exciting. Anytime we start something new is hard, and really trying to get the buy-in and going all in with it is difficult, but they are really rising to the occasion. I'm really proud of them. It's been a huge team effort. Everybody has been helpful. So,
Thank you for taking the lead on that, Ms. Mosley.
Yeah, I just have a comment on that. So, I would like to commend Ms. Mosley, and then I have a question for you. So I've had to do this feedback loop at my job, right? So I understand the amount of time it takes just to sift through the data, right? So huge thank you for spearheading this, for pouring yourself into it, because it was well done, right? Dr. Cochran shared some of the backup data with me, and I can tell it's aligned, right, to a best practice of any corporation or business, right? So great job. Were there any surprises for you? Was there anything either with the feedback, the metric of how many people struggled with things, or maybe personally for you, what I found it helped me with was I knew what the issues were, but sometimes it becomes hard to understand which issues are the most pressing, right? So it allowed me to get my arms around everything and really understand where to focus our attention and time. Is there anything that you kind of learned or gained from this that you thought would be, that you were not expecting, I guess? And sorry to put you on the spot.
No, you're
like that.
okay.
I could have texted you before and let you know I asked that question.
I really, the feedback loop piece where we're able to pick like, or I've put in like drop down boxes. So like if this is a pain point, I can click, okay, this campus, this specific grade level. So some of the things were like, there's a lot of writing in one grade level. Well, another grade level said there's not a lot of writing. So it's dependent on unit. So I feel like that's been really interesting. I don't think that there's been anything that's been like crazy standout. I think that the trainings over the summer were incredibly helpful. I think that teachers who went to those really appreciated the background knowledge, because when we had our training at the beginning of the school year, it was a one day, like, let's dive deep into it, and the people who had gone over the summer were able to have a little bit more buy-in because they knew it more. And I think that that's with anything. I feel like I've tried really hard to know this content, and that's just made it easier. And the more that they plan, the better it's been. The teams that want to do the fun things and want to be creative have gone all in, and they've been awesome, rising to the occasion, sharing with their cross-campus or cross-district teams.
Sure.
And that's been really fun to see too. So I think that that has been surprising, but in a really positive
Yeah.
way.
More engagement, more
Right,
collaboration.
and
It's phenomenal.
because, when we were doing different pieces, it was kind of pieced together, and so this campus, we all might be working on retelling, but you're gonna read this, and you're gonna read that, and you're gonna be doing something different. Well, when we're all reading Greek mythology, and this team is like, hey, we're gonna do an Olympics day, and this one's like, oh, that's so fun, like, let's do it too. It has really allowed like a cross-district team feel for those grade levels,
Awesome.
which has been really cool.
Great. So my question, Dr. Cochran, is, thank you, Lauren, by the way. Are we working on, is there a plan to implement this prior to the introduction of the math curriculum? 30, 60, 90 days,
So one of the things
teachers-
that, sorry,
So the teachers are able to get into it on a grade level, maybe across campus, develop these concerns, and then have maybe a little bit more figured out, or not figured out, but more of the concerns addressed prior to implementing the curriculum.
So the very short answer is yes.
Fantastic.
Part of this whole dynamic was the grant base around all these things and how fast the state released it. So not only are we getting, we got funding for what we're doing now with this reading piece, but we've already started that with the math. They've actually funded us to do this. Like we had math, well, unfortunately, we had one session that was actually planned for this Monday, but the directors had a death in the family. But we're already having groups come in, previewing material, gaining feedback. So we had a whole year of evaluation prior to implementation. We didn't get that on the reading,
Yeah.
but we started that about a month and a half ago, maybe. Yeah, several months ago. But yes, we're getting an evaluation year before we go into implementation.
Awesome. Great.
So
Thank you.
I messed up the order, and yeah, I heard the big exhale, so now I get to go back to it. So before we go back to the boardwalks, if we don't mind circling back to the campus data reports. Sorry, Ms. Bowles.
While she's getting ready, I just want to echo what Matt said. Kudos, and yes, I see it's a whole team effort, like Dr. Cochran was saying, and nobody wants to get their feelings hurt by not getting recognized, but I also want to recognize you and the efforts that you are putting in. So thank you so much. I know it's a team effort, but just what you're doing to create those feedback loops, the transparency between all the campuses, between us, so that we're aware, and I just want to echo the fact that you're celebrating the wins, you're helping them apply their art of teaching to this curriculum. Just kudos, and we're so grateful to have you in this position, so thanks.
All right, so we have started out on our aligned assessments, and so tonight we're going to be looking at math and science for 5th grade. In 3rd grade, we'll start there. We've had one aligned assessment so far, and we are looking at the title of this assessment was the foundation of numbers, adding and subtracting, joining, separating. And so our 3rd grade students were tested over 5 different standards. 4 of those were readiness standards, the things that they have to be solid on before moving to 4th grade. We had 60% of our students scoring 70% or higher. And our strength, we found, was comparing whole numbers up to 100,000, so using greater than, less than, equal to. And I was really impressed with, when I looked at our subpopulations on this particular assessment, our economically disadvantaged, our Hispanic, and our SPED population were all scoring above what the average was for that grade level. And I was just really impressed with those particular subpops, because sometimes we struggle in those areas. So kudos to that third grade team for that. The area of growth that we are looking at is still solving two-step problems. Problem solving is always difficult, and it goes across all grade levels, but for third grade in particular, that's where they're beginning to see some of these two-step processes. So we'll continue working on that. It's problem solving with addition and subtraction within the number up to 1,000. In fourth grade, we've had 2 assessments so far. The first assessment was on place value of whole numbers and decimals, using addition and subtraction with those whole numbers and decimals. We tested 6 standards. 3 of those are readiness standards, and 3 of them are supporting. So 3 they must master in 4th grade, 3 of those they continue to work on up through 5th grade. So we had 100% of our students were at 70% or higher on this particular assessment. Our strengths included representing numbers to up to 1 million, and adding, subtracting numbers and decimals to the hundredths place. Our area of growth is going to be representing how to solve multi-step problems. Here we go again, multi-step, using strip diagrams and equations. And so not only did they need to solve that, they were using particular strategies to solve it. So that was in our first assessment. Our second assessment was on multiplication. So we moved into multiplication of whole numbers. This one we tested 5 different standards. 2 of those were readiness standards. 3 are supporting. They'll continue to work on those. Our strength here was estimating up to 1,000 and using a standard algorithm to multiply using arrays and models. So again, it gives you a way to use that algorithm, but that was definitely a strength for us. An area of growth was representing how to solve multi-step problems using strip diagrams and equations. So that's an area we continue to work on. 5th grade also has had 2 assessments, and our first one was on extending whole numbers. The second one was on algebraic reasoning. Both of those, we have 100% of our 5th graders scoring at 70% or higher. On that first assessment, we tested 4 TEKS, or 4 standards. Just one of those is a readiness standard. Their strength on this one was multiplying 3-digit times 2-digit numbers and estimating using adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing for 5th grade. The area of growth was dividing a 4-digit number by a 2-digit number. Long division. That was an area that they still continue to work on. In the second assessment, which was on algebraic reasoning, our strength was identifying prime and composite numbers and describing the meaning of the parentheses in the equation. Now they can describe what those are for and why they're used, but the area of growth is then actually solving it with those. So using simplifying numeric expressions using PEMDAS. You may be familiar with that, but telling them what goes first and how to use those parentheses in their equation. And that's one that spirals through, so they'll get that again. And in our 5th grade science, we've had 2 assessments. The first one was on properties of matter. Our strength there was being able to classify matter by its physical characteristics, but the area of growth is developing an explanation that's supported by data. So supported by data was the big key thing here in order to develop that explanation of the matter. So then our second one was on mixtures. There were 7 standards on that assessment. Our strength was comparing and contrasting a variety of mixtures and solutions. But the area of growth, again, explaining something, explaining that some mixtures maintain their physical properties. That was an area of growth for us. But we also had 98% of our students at 70% or higher on those assessments. So, working hard, finding our areas. Do you have any questions for me?
Ms. Bowles, can I put you on the spot?
Yes, sir?
Because you went first, and
And
there may be a pattern to these, but so fourth and fifth grade math look great. Fifth grade science looks great. Can we go back to the third grade math?
absolutely.
So from a non-educator point of view, 60% passing does not sound good to me.
Right.
So from your professional experience, can you give us some, is that lower than you expected? Is that kind of what you expected? Is it because there's so much new in third grade? So give us some color on why that number's so low.
I'm not disappointed with 60% on the very first aligned assessment, and here's why. You've heard us say before that when our kids transition from paper onto a computer, there is a change. So with this, we are giving them a paper copy of a test for them to show their own work. But then they're having to transfer that onto the computer. So that's one piece that is just a new challenge for them. The other piece of that is the two-step problem solving. There is a lot of reading in our math problems. It's not just computation. And so that reading portion and trying to figure out exactly what the question is asking them to solve is difficult for third grade. They start on that in second grade, but really third grade's the first place that they're really diving deep into that. And so I completely expect this to continue to rise. So I'm not surprised with a third grade score that's at that point. And the other piece is that we continue to spiral back and reteach those skills. So that's why we're looking at what is our strength and then our area of weakness. And as I said, problem solving. It's always right there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
No, I'll just attest to the third grade word problem. Struggles.
Are you having trouble with
You
her
still
homework
struggle
too?
with them?
No, but I have a third grader who reads the problem. She reads very well, and then she just says, "I don't know what to do," and it's like, yeah, I don't know what to do.
Well, for you, it's her attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as the mom math teacher, I'm trying to be very patient. What do you mean you don't understand math? Yeah. Now, just for the aligned assessment, so the assessments she's talking about, the same ones are given across all three
Yes,
campuses.
ma'am. Okay, so my third grade scores look similar. We're at 58%. It was comparing and ordering whole numbers, 1 and 2 step place value, solving with pictorial models, equations, and number lines. My math team, so I changed up VDI a little bit this year, and I meet with vertical teams now. So I have third grade math, fourth grade math, and fifth grade math all meeting with me to talk together. And already, it's been a game changer for us. I feel like the conversations are, very math centered. Before you had a math teacher and they were like leaning on language arts or science to help them a little bit. But with vertical teams, they know what each other's talking about and they can help each other build to the next level. So that's been a game changer. My third grade teacher came from pre-K last year asking to move up. She's amazing. She's gonna rock it. I just have a lot of faith in her. She is so reflective. That's my biggest drawback from this. That when she was talking about it, she kept saying, "We're working on what the question is asking." And that's what I have written down. Can we make a strip diagram or part full to show what piece is missing because they don't know what part to solve for? So really, it's not necessarily the computation, it's solving the problem. We talked with her about her strategy that she's using, and she said, we're working on UPS check. That's something that's new from second to third grade too, is that you've got to have a strategy, a star-like strategy that will work. So they're working on those things. When I talked to her about this, after it was over, they talked with her in small groups. She said, I met with students who were about mid-level for 1 day and for 2 days with my low kids, and we talked about what they did on their work versus what they should have done. So they talked through using that guided discourse model of where were the mistakes made, what could you do better the next time. I have to say, she came running to my office after school today and said, did you see my scores on the next one? And I said, I haven't looked yet, we're not recording that one tonight. And she was like, oh my gosh. And so she was really excited. She said, my timing is so much better, and I looked at the structure of my day. And so I have all this, I'm doing whole group, and it was like, blah, 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 blah. But she's so reflective that, like Tricia said, I fully expect these to continue to grow throughout the year. So that's where we're at right now, and we'll keep on moving up.
Macy, you make a great point about the vertical teams, because that was even a question that Eric had asked, like, is fourth and fifth grade just building off of third? It's like, yes, but no. Like, yes, they're still doing multiplication, but I don't know if you want to speak to kind of how that,
Right.
since you are meeting vertically, like, kind of what
It
that looks
does
like.
build up, so when she was talking about using strip diagrams, those are some things that fourth grade was struggling with this year. So now with her in third grade, I know she can build on that. So as they're speaking to each other, it's very similar. There's new, why are you laughing at me?
I think he was about to tell me, stop talking.
Oh, he usually tells that to me. They are building on things, so it's addition and subtraction right now, but fourth grade's doing something very similar with multiplication and division. And then fifth grade does it, but they have decimals now. So it's the same thing in alignment of what they're teaching. You can go into the rooms and see the different levels at the same time because our scope and sequence is aligned. So it's very similar, but it changes the complexity of it. That answer that. Fourth grade, unit 1 and 2 was the first assessment, and they were at 75%. They did really well with expanded notation with decimals. They're working on multi-step problems, and she said, we need to work on the strip diagram, which is what third grade said they were gonna work on, and a letter for the unknown. But that comes up in every unit, so we know that's gonna spiral back in. Estimation with compatible numbers was something that they were struggling with, and the team was able to talk about. So they were talking about whether they would estimate the add-ins, right, or if they would use the total. And so there was different talks about the strategies for that and what would work best on an assessment. She took the lowest 5 questions and used guided discourse to talk about the mistakes. So a little bit different from third grade, but very similar. On unit 3, we were at 84%. They improved on the multi-step problem. TK was tested again with this assessment, and it went up 14%. So they're already making growth with that one particular standard. They are doing well with the area model. They're working on lining up numbers in the standard algorithm, which makes sense because that's a new thing that's added. She noted that her kids have been encouraging each other, wanting to participate. They're not discouraged. It's a very risk-free environment there. For fifth grade, I'm at 77 on unit 1. So they were working on not just the operation, but the context. So the same thing again. She said computation is strong, but working on contextual understanding to choose the operation. So that continues all the way up. That's always going to be something that we're working on. Some of their mistakes were like they missed 5 was FIVE versus the numbers. So they took all the numbers but missed the word. Those are little things that we can work on with the strategies. Dr. Keener was talking and said, last year 5.3K was my weakest standard. Did you look at it? She said, it's already at 70%. So she's looking at last year's data, trying to make it better this year and going into this year knowing that. Unit 2 was algebraic reasoning. We were at 82%. And this one will come back up in units 3 and 4. She's reteaching using IXL and also the new kind of supplemental that we bought, STAR practice called Roman. I'm really proud of her this year. The comprehension has improved, and so her instruction has improved too. Fifth grade science, Ashton has worked really hard this year. The first one was math classifying matters, which she was at 95% of 70 or above, and mixtures and solutions was unit 2, and that was at 98%. So I was saying, what are some things you've changed? You know, what are you doing differently? And she goes, all right, you're right, I am. I'm not going to use a testing strategy. We're going to use focus on the vocabulary. We're using expo on the screen. You know, she was going through all these things. I'm like, you're using a strategy. That's just not the same. It doesn't have a name. So she changed some things up like that, different things that she's teaching them as far as testing goes. Really proud of her. The science team meets vertically also, and they talked about T-charts is what they all got started on, and versus solutions and mixtures. And she's like, that's not what it's like. It says solutions and non-solutions. So they talked about doing that in 4th grade and building that up to 5th. The conversations were great in our DEI meetings. I look forward to meeting with them. I could not be in the room and my people would continue talking the way that they do when I'm in there. They're just smart, amazing people. Questions for me? You're like, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Macy.
They both did a great job. Said lots of things. So again, our third grade scores are also similar. We're at 63%. We had a great conversation. I do DDI grade level wise. So we talk through math, talk through reading. I have a little bit bigger team, so I have somebody in there that where your math teachers not be alone sometimes. I have bigger teams where I have somebody in there to talk to them, with them. So we had a great discussion about test taking strategies. Those third graders who have never taken the test, they're having a hard time with the first test. So they are really excited that the kids care about their tests. So we had long discussions on how and when time they could bring in some of those test taking strategies in both subjects and increase these scores. So our third grade team does a great job. And these concepts spiral back. Their routines are in place. They're talking more deeper in the curriculum and with the concepts. They do a great job. 4th grade, we are excited teacher that was my teacher last month was here. They are working hard on aligning fourth grade with our special ed teacher and both of our math teachers. They're struggling with two-step problems, focusing, those kids are more focused on the computation and not paying attention to that second step, so that's something they're gonna work on during win time. Ms. McGraw was in our DDI meeting. She is very much like Lauren, does a wonderful job supporting our teachers. They were actually gonna bring in numberless word problems to really focus on those key words and what to do and what steps to take. So Ms. McGraw is supporting our fourth grade. I do expect to see these continue to go up. Fifth grade is really strong. We had the best conversation in fifth grade DDI. They were so complimentary of fourth grade last year and the foundation that those kids came in with and how strong they are. So I expect that our fifth grade scores will go up because of that. So it was great to hear that. They said those kids are just making very simple mistakes at 89%, 100%. We see some strong things there. They're focusing on vocabulary, the types of test questions, some of those new test questions those kids aren't as familiar with, and then just testing these strategies. But just that conversation was so fifth grade science is also pretty exciting. We have a different setup this year. It's the only grade level really that had 3 teachers. So one is designated for science, which gives him a little bit more time in science, and he was excited to see the kids do really well. They are working on vocabulary and writing, and he said just building the confidence. So those kids know the science, they just aren't as confident in taking a science test. So they're working on building confidence in those as well. So we expect to see great things out of science this year as well. So, any questions?
Thank you. Good job, elementary schools.
We'll start with eighth grade science. We are in year 2 using a new curriculum in our science department, and I've got a pretty new science team this year that is working exceptionally well together. I'm excited to see how they're partnering. They've actually done more assessments than this. Several of these have some gaps because we were dealing with maybe 418. But they are, it's fun to hear elementary talk about what concepts they're working on and be reminded of how things do flow so sequentially. Unit 1 was properties of water, and they were learning about how the properties of water and how it affects other natural processes in the environment. So they did pretty well on that. And then the periodic table and chemical reactions is what Unit 2 was over. So those will continue to spiral through. This team is trusting the curriculum because they can see, after digging in, they can see that it is constantly spiraling, and sometimes that's hard to trust. I think like Lauren said earlier, when you're used to the way you've always done it, and now it feels like you're supposed to assess to mastery, but really we're just taking a part of it, and we need them to master this part, and it may not be the whole piece. So they're doing a great job of knowing and trusting that process. So we'll keep building.
Was it implemented 2 or 3 years ago? How long did you say?
Last year.
Oh, last year, okay.
Okay, so then 6th grade math. 6th grade is a big year for math. Lots and lots of new content is introduced, and they transition from establishing that really solid foundation of the procedures of math and conceptualizing a lot of the content. And again, that abstract reasoning that's preparing them for algebra. So 6th grade math is I have some updates here. So on numbers and operations, they were still struggling to convert fractions and decimals correctly. They'll continue exploring this through their bell fingers and spiral content. They retested, the students who retested, out of those students, 60% got a 7 or higher. So improvement there. And then the 72% for positive rational numbers is that includes a small number of retesters. So all right with the foundation there, but we'll continue spiraling for 6th each year they're coming in stronger with a more solid foundation. And this seventh grade group had all of that new content to build on the year before, and we are starting off the year pretty well. Adding and subtracting rational numbers. And this, by the way, is not our students who are taking pre-algebra. This is our students who were not ready for that. So this is encouraging on several levels. Adding and subtracting rational numbers at 82%. They retested multiplying and dividing rational numbers, and that came up to 75%. And then two-step equations, two steps, 90%. Now, we're not going to expect that every time, but that was a win. All right, so then here's our advanced math, and some of this was part of the Eduphoria kinks, because our pre-algebra students are taking a lot of the same tests that our 8th grade students are taking. So you'll see some of their numbers in the next slide. They are historically, because it's an advanced curriculum, they're starting off with lower scores, but we always see this group perform exceptionally well. They did last year. There's no doubt they will again. But they're working in 2 different grade levels of curriculums, and so at the beginning of the year, that's a little bit to work through. So teachers are shoring up that foundation. There was another one that I was able to pull that was linear equations at 72%, and then the rest of them are filtered in here with the 8th grade, and so they just adjusted how they were reporting it. This first one is the real number system, and decimal location for the scientific notation is what got them hung up. What we found was really when they entered in Eduphoria, they had to hand enter what one of the answers was, and instead of entering 0.1, they just entered 0.1, and it tanked a lot of it. So this score should be higher. The teachers did not really feel like that needed to be reassessed, because once you took that error in how they entered the number, it was much higher than 61%. So, and much higher than 70%. So now they're working on that, and it's just testing. It's those pieces to it that are still important and they still get tripped up on. Linear equations, they're struggling with understanding that they need to move the variables from one side of the equation to the other. They did get a retest or retaught at 78%, so that's the right direction, and they'll continue shoring that up, making sure that that's a solid foundation. And then, in the last one, writing linear equations, which is a next step for linear equations. Right now we're writing it, so it's to a higher level. Oddly, what tripped them up there was reversing the greater than and less than symbols, which is not something that's not new. But they really, I guess what teachers felt like they had not done well enough was review that, because there was this assumption that that was solid. And the kids have been retaught. They see it with the dialogue that they can have with students when they're reviewing the assessments. Students are, oh, yeah, I see what I did there, and they just weren't making kind of careless mistakes. But they retested, and still was just at 65% of the students who retested got 70 or higher. Always start seeing that. And then algebra.
How do they determine what kids retest, or what percentage of kids retest? How do you determine that?
The students who did not get a 70 or higher.
Oh, okay. So you're taking the ones out that got higher than 70.
Yes.
Okay, I'm following you now. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I never feel like I'm saying that
Yeah,
effectively.
okay, thank you.
8th grade algebra, they're doing pretty well. They were not combining their like terms correctly, and so at 77%, that was an easy reteach, and they'll continue spiraling that. Did well on their Unit 1 assessment, and then properties of sixth grade experiencing so many new standards. Seventh grade and eighth grade both having advanced opportunities. There's a lot of combining grade levels that's happening too right now. So I think that we're in a good position to start the year.
Thank you, Ms. Ben.
Thank you.
Is this a rookie presenter we have tonight?
Again, huh?
Definitely a rookie, and I don't know why y'all keep making me
Really?
go last.
Would you rather go first with Miss Bolton?
Everybody's got
I'm like,
papers,
get
and
him.
He's got nothing.
everybody's got books.
It's kind of like our high school
First, so
presentation
then
last
I
year.
set the bar so low that no one has to worry.
Macy was the last one to get hazed as the new presenter, so now is your time to turn it around. Yeah.
This is just a one-time deal. This is not every week.
You're going to Africa next month.
Yes, I'll be in Africa for 6 months.
Yeah.
I will do my best. We start with biology. First off, to start our biology department, or our science department, I should say, is almost all brand new. But they've been hitting their PLCs hard. We hired Ms. Flowers, who's our our science department head, who has teamed wonderfully, number one, with Coach Hollums, who might be one of the best coach teachers in the state, honestly. And then, so you put those two together, and Ms. Flowers has just transitioned in seamlessly. She was replacing a legend in Ms. Sprayberry, and she's transitioned seamlessly. And then we brought in Ms. Bush, who's teaching our chemistry classes. And the sheer numbers they're having to teach in class and try to get them, these numbers are actually really outstanding, obviously. And it's typical biology. You start with your biomolecules and enzymes when you come in. I taught biology at one point, so I don't enjoy this part of biology, but it's very mundane. But for kids to score like this, it's obviously they're getting taught, they're retaining the information, because the information is actually rather dull and boring at this point in biology. I'm just being blunt with biology, because it's not.
Makes
the
me
first
want to
part
go
of
to
biology
school.
Yeah.
The first part of biology is just simply boring. There's no easy way
Now
around
we know
it.
why he's not still teaching biology.
Ms. Flowers and Coach Hollums obviously do a great job of
Made it
making
fun.
it interesting enough that they are retaining and learning information.
Gaines is no longer in the classroom.
Yes, I'm no longer in the classroom, so that's harder. And then, so you can see our cells and viruses, their numbers go up even more. And again, that's just the building block of taking the biomolecules, building it into cells and viruses, and then they score. Our scores are obviously fantastic there. And then you factor in with Dr. Tate teaching, I think he has one of our biologists and teaches our aquatic sciences. All our sciences across the board, probably score-wise, are our strongest on our campus at the moment. We just have a really, really wonderful department there. Math, this one's a little bit different. Linear equations, this goes back to what all the elementaries, the middle schools we're talking about. You're talking about your kids that can barely do one-step equations. If they could barely do one step in 8th grade, then they could barely do one step in 9th grade. If they could barely do two-step or multi-step equations in 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade, they're still struggling to do it when they get to high school. And I'm just gonna be honest with you, some of these words on these pages, I don't know what they mean sometimes. I've said in math classes, linear equations, quadratic functions. My sister teaches math, it makes sense to her. I can read, I can't do math. So the Unit 1 test, which was linear equations and inequalities, that's kind of the functional baseline for Algebra 1. A lot of scores are often really low there because you're testing a component of, you're testing them a little bit above their level from what they came in at 8th grade. They have learned a little bit of linear functions, but now you're adding another component in. And so your scores are often really low because you're testing them on stuff that they haven't quite been taught yet. And then, so to get a baseline of where you're headed, and then you go to linear and quadratic functions, so you see the growth from 38 to 60, and then you go to relationship and function. And believe it or not, they're still making the same mistakes that they made in 7th and 8th grade, 6th grade. They're forgetting signs. They're forgetting what, if you multiply two negatives together, if you add if you add or subtract in this step. So our math department last year was sending homework home, and kids were coming back and making 100s on all the homework, because as we all know, this ever-evolving AI technology world, there's an app called Photomath that will do everything for a kid. So our test scores were coming back naturally
Low.
very low. So math has tweaked their philosophy this year, and they are doing more of a teach, independent practice, group discussion, maybe more independent practice, and then about 2, sometimes 3 mini assessments a week with less homework. So that they can actually get a look at what the kids are doing on paper in their class versus the kid taking the paper home, scanning it. Because my understanding is the photo math will actually even show you how to write the whole formula down and do all of it, so the teacher thinks you actually went home and did all the work. So the math, now, early in that process, our math scores were struggling, our math grades were struggling simply because the kids weren't getting to use the tools that they know how to use. So math had to go back and tweak that a little more and change their mini assessments to try to get a little bit better baseline of where our kids are. Our grades and scores are starting to fluctuate up because of those tweaks. So outside of that, I don't know what else to say. I'm not good at this.
You did great.
Great job.
Any questions for me? Because I don't know if I can answer.
Great job.
Great job.
Are you enjoying the year?
Am I enjoying what?
Are you enjoying the year?
I'm enjoying the year. It is busy. It's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, but I can handle it. I do appreciate it.
We're proud of you.
His sister was in the future. Your sister would be proud.
My sister came home one day from college and told me she was taking discrete math, and I said, why? What is that?
That's my favorite class.
All right. I was gonna circle back to the last part of my presentation, from my part, and talk about campus walks. We did a first round of those yesterday, and that came from a discussion at TASB, where TASB put together some presentations about being engaged with your campus and doing campus walks. I was just putting this in our agenda so we could have some feedback and collaboration over it a little bit. You know, from a school's perspective, even from the TASB model, they show the board members these things, but then behind the scenes, you know, say, okay, establish boundaries. How do you keep the bumpers there? How do you make sure that the board stays in the right lane and engages with the campus? And I think from board members that have been on a board for a long time, there's like, okay, wow, we haven't done that before. This is kind of a new, what does that threshold look like? And I will tell you, obviously, something we wanted to make happen. I was nervous what it was gonna look like. I went home and told Danielle, I was like, this is one of the coolest days I've had in a long time. It started out with these kids showing off the process and then seeing the instruction. It was a really neat thing, but we had 3 board members show up for you guys. You know, what we would do is split it up so we can't have 7 walk around together, so we would do different groups of small, so they're not walking quorum. But the idea was just to be engaged with the campus because they don't get to see what happens on the day-to-day basis and then build relationships. But I was gonna let you guys kind of, if you had any discussions or talk back, feedback, give this moment of time to have a group of 7 discussion over it.
I don't really have a discussion. I mean, just thank you to the principals and allowing us into your campuses. It was wonderful, and you're doing a great job, and keep up the good work.
I'll just say, so Michael and I's day was a little different than Nick's. We got to go to the new middle school afterwards and get to walk that. And you put the whole day together. It was really inspiring. I mean, there's a lot of great things going on in this district, and I know, you know, a lot of the feedback and the noise is not always positive, so, you know, to be able to kind of see that with your own eyes and witness, you know, the great things that are going. The one thing that I want to kind of call out and appreciated seeing at all 3 campuses was, and I don't remember this being a point of emphasis in school, but teaching children how to speak to adults. Teaching them the ability to look in the eye, have a clear and concise message. I was just blown away. And that's such an important thing they're gonna have to learn as they get older, as we all know. So I really like how everything's just kind of spawns from that. It's all kind of tied in to how to present yourself in really a professional setting. And so I was really, really encouraged. Thank you guys. I know we're a distraction most of the time, but to be able to get in there and see that, it was really, really cool. So thank you. So we have a couple of notes that I personally hand wrote for everybody. So these are my own thoughts. But we just wanted to thank you guys so much for letting us come into your schools. There you go. There she is. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, it sounded like it was a fun day, and personally, I want to apologize. I wasn't able to make it. I was just coming back from being out for about 10 days, so couldn't be there, but sounded like an awesome day, and they said the kids were really impressive that gave the tours. So,
What I saw was with the students that you picked to be able to take us around was the interaction that the younger kids had with the older kids. And to me, it was just showing that y'all are building the camaraderie, the relationships within your grade levels. And I even saw some of the kids that would go into a classroom and the teacher was working with the whole class, but those students would go in with somebody and help them with a problem or something like that. And I thought that was really good to see, that it wasn't like, I'm a fifth grader, I don't need to be doing this. It was very genuinely going in and helping and having that relationship from a first grader to a fifth grader. You know, there wasn't that awkwardness between the ages or the age groups, which I really like. And I know we kind of go into your disrupt things, but I didn't know if y'all had any feedback from your teachers on how they felt about that, you know, because sometimes it may be nervous or great, you know, people coming in, come on, through my class, and what do I do, or anything like that.
The people that came in and said, I was a little nervous before they got here, but that was great. We loved having them here. And, you know, the kids were excited and, you know, the visitors and, you know, so they, yeah, I had very positive feedback. They were glad to see you.
I even had a fourth grader ask me, how did the school board walk go? Like, he was so excited to ask. So I think it went well. The teachers, we had great feedback. The teachers were all happy to see y'all there, and I think they felt supported by having you there.
The only question I got was it too chaotic in there? I said, no, Mace, that was awesome. No, but our kids were glad to have you too. They knew you were coming. We love having guests. We're glad to have you in the building.
That mentorship you see couldn't have happened a couple years ago, if we weren't, I mean, it would have been limited grade levels, right? So that it's kind of neat to be able to, you know, these, you know, K through 5 campuses, where there's more opportunity for those kids to, you know, be in a range where they need.
So the plan as we collaborate and go through it, you know, we're gonna do an elementary, like in November, we'll do a secondary walk. And then we'll do that pattern once a semester. So twice a year, they'll be on each level. So next year, I say next year, after Christmas, we'll do another elementary and a middle school round. But it might look different, like some of the things we talked about yesterday was, well, what if we,
Middle school, high
yeah, secondary, middle school, high school, but we'll still do an elementary one. But like, what if we just divide it up 3 campuses and each experience drop off? And we're there from 7:30 to 8, you know, and be able to, you know, being able to, when you're making those decisions, like Nick and I had a good conversation yesterday, and it's like, look at these kids right here, you know, wow, that's really awesome. But there's 19 kids right there. As school board members, sometimes you hear, well, that class is humongous. And to be able to go, well, I walked in it and the kids were having a blast and the teacher had total control. It's a little different experience conversation when you're approached at church or at work over a content that you can say, no, I lived it. And it wasn't faked. I mean, they were teaching yesterday. That was what they do every day. The kids had notes in their hands. You know, they were some of the best kids. And that made for some of the funnest stories. But a couple of those kids were here tonight doing the pledges. But anything else?
I don't think we should do drop off. I think we should do release, like the car pickup line. Everyone get a taste of that.
Okay, so we can schedule that, but I would prefer it to be August 17th, so you guys can be there when we get the phone calls of why it takes 27 minutes and how this could possibly ever work correctly.
Forward.
Yeah. We need that little kid.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that went well. Look forward to being on some soon. All right, action on items from closed session. We're going to table that. We're going to go back to executive session when we get done here. Class size exception waiver?
Yeah, I need to approve a waiver, and I believe it's for Dyer and Dodd, 2nd and 4th grade. Am I correct on that? You'll see it in your packet. Sorry, let me get to it. We have, anytime we get close to the ratios, yes, 2nd and 3rd grade, sorry, for Blanche and Hansel. Dodd and Hansel, I apologize. But the waiver's in your packet. If you'll approve it as presented, we can file it with TEA.
I don't remember
And then-
Ken's.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say I don't remember Ken's, making sure I was on the right one. Go
I
ahead,
move to
Brett.
approve the waiver as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda. There's no further questions. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Items for future agendas. Anything you want to see administration or campuses bring to the November meeting? If not, this board will now adjourn back into executive session pursuant with Texas Code Chapter 551. The time is 7:53.
Can we come up with anything for Gaines to do special?
Well,
He's already leaving. He's already leaving.
well, again, so we'll expect, this is gonna take a couple hours, but I wanna see you when we get out, okay?
Yeah.
Hey, y'all don't feel like y'all need to stay. All right, thank y'all for doing that.
We'd have to figure out a power cord situation.
I think it,
My computer, I bet it's just not plugged in. I bet it got unplugged.
okay, great job. Great job.
Well done, sir.
I was gonna say, I am
Spoke
now
from the
on
heart.
my third round of learning biology. I said hello to you guys, and they told me, like, or a week. Well, it's really involved in 3 different things, so. It's hard. But I know that, so Blake didn't have all of this. And I can tell, like, she is gonna be a better student because of time.
The same way I tried in special ed.
And he struck an arc.
Up top, second floor. He was looking up at something and it went
Oh, a
my
spark.
gosh.
Slag
slag, almost eyeballed
Then
him.
the welders, with their machinery, took out 4 beams.
He texted me, there is one out there, he's gonna call me back. in
Yeah,
a
I'm
second.
going.
He's on the phone.
All right, we're just gonna do, we're gonna do a quick motion.
I'm not gonna make any future agenda item requests. Let's go.
You can email him about that. Okay.
We didn't write down the motion, how does?
Annual superintendent compensation review. It's in there. I move to approve.
I move to approve a 2.5% increase to the salary with an additional $500 per month allotment for
The
Auto.
our auto allowance.
second,
I guess we got a quorum.
We lose our quorum.
No, we got a quorum.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second for a 2.5% increase, annual salary increase for Dr. Cochran and a $500 a month auto allowance. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. All right.
Thanks.
If there's nothing further, we are adjourned. Time is 8:46.
Great.
Do you want to go?
I'll follow you out there. It's on the way home.
I mean, I'm not going to do anything. I just need to, I have to see if I'm having an oh shit or oh no
It was a
moment.
welding, like a drop cloth that the welders use, I guess, to contain the flames and stuff. It caught fire, so they've already got it put out.
Okay, good. I'm
So
not.
it wasn't like a